Back in the day, many would flock to convention centers to grab as much learning as possible, all while sitting in a comfy chair for 8+ hours in a day. What's up, everyone? And welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? I'm Zach Miller, author of Anomaly. And with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thanks for joining us. The Fervent Four is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business, no matter the climate. Hot and humid today. The Fervent Four is powered by the SBDC, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head on over to startwheel.org/weekly. Deany Dormer has been building legendary events for decades. How has the landscape maneuvered over the years? Thanks for tuning in. Deany, Tim, welcome to the show. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How long can I clap for, do you think?
We'll see.
Deany, long time no see. How's it going?
Oh, things are going all right. Very different, but we're making it work.
Yeah, you've been in the event space for decades. Is it about 3 decades? How you've been doing?
A little over 2.
A little over 2. So I gave you an extra 10.
Yeah.
Sorry. What got you into events to start?
I'm sorry. So I mean, probably doing events, probably about 30 years, but in official capacity, I would say about 2 decades, a little over 2 decades.
So like growing up in Houston, were you doing events?
Yeah.
You were? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't an official capacity with like a job title or anything like that. That was just kind of on my own for fun. Which it's still for fun because I really, really do enjoy doing events. There's something I think that is essential to being a human being is wanting to be around other people. I think it's intrinsic within us that, no man's an island. So I think events just kind of gives us an excuse to bring everyone together. It's kind of like that campfire thing back in the caveman days. Same thing here, right? With the events, bringing people together, socializing, talking with each other, growing with each other, learning, all those sorts of things. So it's just an advanced continuation of what we've been doing for millennia.
All right, I'm going to switch things up. Tim, do you remember your most favorite event of all time? It could be music. It could be an actual business event. Is there a event, conference, whatever, a thing with a lot of people that you remember being like your favorite thing of all time? Hell, it could be a movie. So good, he doesn't even remember. Deany, what about you? What was your favorite?
My internet froze up, so I didn't realize that question was directed to me.
Got it. Well, let's start with you, Tim.
Well, let Deany go because I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Okay, so basically, your favorite event of all time, business or not? Doesn't have to be business. It could just be like a concert or something like that, like an event with a bunch of people.
Yeah, no, we were in Mexico in January of this year before everything shut down for Crash My Playa. That's Luke Bryan's music festival that he does every year in Cancun, which was pretty on point.
And what made that event so memorable to you?
So it's a small audience, and the whole resort was just for those people for the festival. So, and he did he just made everybody feel like they were invited to his own personal party. And everything was all inclusive. So every night when concerts were being played, it was an open bar, so to speak. So you felt very much like you were almost in his living room that just happened to be on the beach.
You said some interesting things there that I think Deany probably will pick up on. Deany, what's your favorite event of all time?
I don't think I really have one. I just really love, I know. It's like, okay. So if I had to say, one of the recent ones I went to last year was with a legendary group. It was a business group, and we went to Mexico. It was a private group, right? So you had to be signed up into the legendary group. And so
Is it called the Legendary Group, or
No,
they
it's
happen to be legendary?
it's one of the business guys. His name is David Bayer, and so he has different levels of groups, and the top tier level is called Legendary. A couple other levels. So he takes those exclusive kind of like A-list business owners and does retreat. Basically, it's kind of like a learning retreat. So kind of conference, but a smaller group of people, so about under 200 people. And go to different places around the world to learn together. So I really like that.
You both said something there about like intimate, basically, you know, that small group is really important, and how the person behind it, right? So the bear guy, or the who's yours, Tim? Luke Bryan, is that who it was?
Yeah.
You know, even though you were one of many, right, hundreds or thousands, you still felt like you were almost one of a few, and that was really, really important. So how as someone who's done events for decades, Deany Dormer of assistmyevent.com, of executive events, how do you think that you create that kind of experience, even if there's more than one-to-one kind of options there?
Yeah, I think it's just trying to figure out what your attendee goals are. So figure out why that person wants to attend the event and what do they need from you, right? So are they coming to your event for, talking to other people? So for instance, you're networking and different things like that, or are they coming for a different reason? And I think it's being creative, especially in these times right now, and adding that little extra element of surprise in there. And then also being a really good steward when people come in, greeting them properly, making sure that their needs are met, putting people in place so that they will check in with the attendees throughout the conference or throughout the event to make sure that you are supplying, all their needs. So I think that's really important, is being in tune with your attendees' wants.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden everything shifts, and now we're going everything online. What are some of the ways with online events that you can make people feel important and included?
Yeah, so I think that that's the engagement. So let me talk a little bit about the difference between, let's say, live streaming and an actual virtual event, right? So two separate things. And when we say virtual, sometimes people are thinking that we're talking about live streaming. So an event is going to be going on and we're setting up a camera and the camera is just going to record the event and we're sitting in our living rooms watching that event, right? That's just live streaming. That's not a virtual event, right? I'm a passive participant. I'm just viewing that. I have no input per se. Maybe there's a chat box at the most that I can enter a question that may or may not be answered. But when we put on a virtual event, this is something where the person on their couch is an active participant. They're just not a passive watcher, right? So they're going to come in, they're going to be greeted, they're going to be introduced to what's going on. If you want to see the keynote speaker, go here. If you want to buy something in our store, go here. If you want to interact with the speaker, here's what you do, right? So they're getting that instruction. They're being greeted, just like as in an in-person event. So that same thing happens with a virtual event, right? So I want to distinguish that between virtual event, where you're putting it on for the virtual person at home on their couch, versus live streaming, where I'm just watching it.
So this is more of a live streaming event, not a virtual event, because we're not individualizing things in that kind of case. Is that fair?
No, so there's like a few different platforms. This is, I guess you could say that.
There's so much media out there now. I think that there's so many options for people to really grasp what you're trying to say, and I think it's important for people to be like, okay, like this is more of like a, I don't know, a Netflix show, if you will.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could call it that. So what I was talking about before is, like, say you do a virtual event and you come into like a lobby, like you're actually seeing this whole thing. You see your lobby, you see, here's your breakouts. You can actually click here. I want to go in and see the keynote speaker. Here, I want to go into the lobby. That's your top tier level. So this is like a full event management platform. This is perfect for like conferences and trade shows. There's an ability to present videos, PowerPoint presentations. You can share files. You can chat, different things like that. Audience participation, think like breakout rooms and the like. Then I guess your next tier down would be your virtual presentations or seminars, which would be like your webinars, like your Zoom or your GoToWebinar or Webinar Jam or stuff like Cisco WebEx, right? So you can share presentations, PowerPoint presentations, chat rooms, there's Q&As, different features like that. So then the next tier is your general meetings. And this, of course, you can use Zoom. Zoom is a really good platform. That's expanded into a lot now. So it kind of covers a few different things, not the top tier, but some of the bottom tiers. You have your Google Hangouts for things like that. This is what we're doing now. There's Skype, there's GoToMeeting. And this is for like your smaller general meetings. And then you have, I guess your bottom tier would be your online streaming. So your live streaming like we're doing now. So Instagram Live, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Vimeo.
The same thing.
Start from the bottom, but we're gonna
start from the bottom. So this I categorize more as of live streaming with maybe like the chat feature. But yeah, this is a little bit more of, I guess, the bottom tier. Not that that's bad, right? But yeah, it goes into the live streaming realm where you're talking about like your Facebook Lives or YouTube Lives, Instagram Lives, things like that. So it's basically online streaming media that's like simultaneously recorded and broadcast in real time. That's what we're doing right now. This is live.
What are some products to use on the top tier?
Oh, that's kind of like a trick question. There are so many. So the top tier is your full event management platform. So these are your conferences, these are your trade shows. So some good ones to go with. One of our partners is Meeting Play. That's a really good one. There's Entrado, there's InExpo, Expo Pass, Cvent is one that I used for many, many years. So those are a few. And some of the features with those different type of ones on the top tier, you can have like a virtual lobby, you can have sponsor rooms, exhibitor rooms, you can do polls, surveys, file sharing.
Really for people that are these top level options are really for someone who's trying to replicate a scenario like an actual event and an actual conference. The person who's doing an interview like this or just like a Zoom call doesn't need something that extravagant.
No. And that comes with a cost as well, right? So if you're talking about that top tier and you're going
thousands of dollars, probably, right?
Like a Cvent, how much?
Thousands? I don't know.
Yes, thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah, several thousands if you're going with the very, very top tier. But when we do our consultations with executive events, we look at the client's budget and we determine what exactly they do need. So it may be that you can get some of the features of the top tier, but you're not paying that top tier money per se, depending on what features you're going to use. So maybe you don't need a virtual lobby, or maybe you don't need an exhibit hall and things like that. So we would look within that top tier and find one that fits you. And that's what we do with our consulting. So we would work with the client, work with their budget, and pick the best platform for them that would best serve their audience.
So as someone who's been building in-person events, conferences, extravaganzas, that's a word, extravagant events.
Okay.
Maybe you should have called it extravagant events instead of executive events.
Yeah, well, I think executive events explains it a little bit more, like before.
As someone who's been doing that for decades and primarily in person at conference halls and things like that, back when did you start hearing about COVID?
Well, we heard about it, I would say, beginning of March-ish.
Okay. And so did you start talking to clients, rearranging at that point? Or when when did you really start when were you really like, OMG, this is something I'm going to be directly impacted on because my clients aren't going to be able to do these type of things? And then how did you kind of do the old switcheroo to get into the virtual world?
Well, it's not a switcheroo. We've been in virtual world since A1 day one. So this is not new for us.
A1 day one? Is that what you said?
A1 day one. Yeah, from the beginning.
Did you make that up? Like who's?
No, I didn't make it up. Maybe it's a Southern thing. I don't know.
You know what? Like some kids are on TikTok. Some kids talk about A1 day one. I'm learning a lot already.
No, we've always done virtual events. But I would say the majority of what we did was hybrid events in the past. And that's part in person, part virtual. So we've had things like live streaming that comes in for a portion of it. If like say a speaker couldn't be there or say that they're in a different country. I've done an event with Operation Smile where we had a hospital a few miles away, and we live streamed a surgery into part of the event, but made it interactive with the doctors that were there in person. So there's different ways that we can do hybrid events, right? So now we're doing them a little bit more intensely. But no, we've always done virtual events and hybrid events. So this is nothing new for us. The platforms and the opportunities, the new opportunities that have come up, that's the new part, but we're experienced with doing virtual. That's been
Operation Smile is the organization that helps fix cleft lips. Is that right?
Cleft lip, cleft palates for children around the world.
And so you had a live stream into the hospital?
We
actual in person.
So we put on a conference for the doctors. And so they were learning some new techniques and things like that. So it was a learning event. It was like a 4 day conference. Mm-hmm. And a portion of the learning event, we had 600 doctors, right? So we couldn't put all 600 doctors in the hospital, right? Hovering over this patient to see this new graph thing that they were using. Right. So for that, we set up a camera at the hospital and then streamed the surgery live to the doctors that were attending the conference.
Now, did you figure that out through Q&A with the group to figure out what their needs were? And that was the kind of solution.
That was the solution. Absolutely. So we talked with them. What does the program need to look like? What type of learnings are we doing? This goes everything from like the booklets they're handing out, all that sort of stuff. So what does that programming look like? And there was a need to show off this new technique. And it was not something that you can just print out in a manual. You needed to actually see this. You need to see the saliva. You need to see the blood. You need to see all this sort of stuff because it's training for these doctors. So they had to see that level of detail. And so that was the solution, was to show them this surgery live and this new graph that they're using and things like that. And so we worked with the client to say, hey, this is something that we want to teach them while we have them all here and things like that. And so that was the solution there. So somewhat like a hybrid situation.
Yeah, I like that. So you've been doing this for for several years, as we talked about. Seeing all the different online virtual events that are taking place, what is the most common mistake that you see organizers making today?
I think it's not preparing the event for a whole like virtual experience, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to be the speaker and I'm going to be the talking head and I'm going to say this, and I'm not thinking about engaging you to a certain extent, maybe like a little bit of engagement, which would just be the chat room alone, which is not enough. So the biggest mistake I see people making now with virtual events is not making it a virtual event and not having that person that's at home being super engaged in the actual event and have the power to turn the event, right? To have the speaker answer their questions or to do breakout rooms and different things like that. Different activities, special guests, all this sort of thing. It's still a little bit more like the live streaming sort of thing. Like, I'm going to put this event on and you're going to just take it. Right. And so that's the biggest thing, is making it an experience for that person at home.
So I think on the surface, that all makes sense, right? The high level, it's like pull people in and do that. But in my experience, less than 10% of people actually contribute the way that you're asking to. Even at a normal conference with people, right? You could have 1,000 people in there and maybe 100 people will contribute the way that the person on stage wants them to. Like, the only place I feel like I've ever seen a lot of people contribute is like in that Tony Robbins documentary, where it seemed like everyone was giving it. So as a host, or as someone who is trying to pull those people in to contribute, to be a part of the show or the performance, like, how do they do that? Because I think a lot of times people can say, hey, I want you to be a part of this thing.
So when I
doesn't return the favor back.
Right. So when I say contribute, it's not necessarily just someone raising their hand like, hey, I have a question for the speaker. There are different ways to, and maybe we need to use the word engagement. So it's not necessarily them contributing in a specific way, except for maybe the surveys that they've taken before the event, so that you know what they're really coming there for, and your communications and messaging. And that's another story. So it's the engagement of the people. Let's not say contribution. Let's say the engagement. So are people engaged in what's going on? So it's not necessarily them asking a question. It's, are they participating? Are they interacting with other attendees? So if you have like a breakout room, are they actually going into the room? Or when you put them in the rooms, if you forcibly do it, are they popping out? Are they engaging with other people? So if networking and things are important, or one of those key things that you see as an objective for your event, and you provide them a networking, a breakout room, different things like that, are they utilizing that? And then also you're going to have your event concierge or your room people in there as well to make sure that that person's doing okay. It could be activity breaks. Because you don't want people just sitting forever, right? So you might have an activity break where they get to go and do something before they come back, things like that. Different connections with them, maybe having a special guest that they don't know about that would be a surprise. So what's that element of surprise that can still engage that person? That when they say, oh my goodness, I didn't know this was going to happen. This was so amazing, right? So keep it fun and exciting. And there's a lot of room to be creative here. So we're able to do that as well. So it's that engagement. How are you engaging them? That's the key.
Yeah, and how is that also true in terms of in preparation before the event even starts? When how do you suggest prepping people and getting them excited? Almost like the warm up band before a concert. Their job is to get the crowd hyped and ready to go. And I think that's an important element that is often missed when it comes to leading up to the event. Any tips that you want to share with that regarding that, the lead up?
Yeah. And I think this is where we can be creative as well, right? It doesn't need to just be how it's always been done. So think of something more like, so the event, even before the event begins, right? Say I have a check-in time where I'm going to check in with my event concierge like the day before, right? So this event concierge is going to show me the platform. They're going to show me this is where you will go if you want to see what's live right now, the keynote speaker or the programming. Here's where you go for our company store. Here's where you go if you want to be in the networking sessions that happen between this time and this time. Here's where you go. That's just a virtual like water fountain, right? So you go to the conferences, you meet somebody at the water fountain, by the bathrooms, that sort of thing. So there's a breakout room that's just a free-for-all, like there's no just set agenda in there and things like that. So they can go in there as well. So my event concierge is taking me and maybe a small group of people on a virtual tour of how to interact with this event, even before the event, right? So the day before or whatever. Also in advance, I can send a package to all my attendees. It could be a notebook. It could be an actual book. It could be a recipe. It could be alcohol, whatever fits your thing, something maybe for the activity break. So during the event, we're going to have an activity break. I sent you a box of XYZ, and this is what you need to do during the activity break. You're going to come back and it's going to be show and tell, whatever like that. So it's getting people like hyped up for the event. So if you get an activity box in the mail for a conference that you're going to be attending, you're more likely to actually attend that conference because now you're engaged with this new, cool, and different thing.
Everyone loves the present.
Yeah, exactly. So it's letting them know that this is going to be an exciting, and this is where your moderators and your event concierge comes in advance, letting people know that you do have a surprise for them and different things like that to get them to be completely engaged.
Okay, so this might be too hard of a question to answer because there's a data point to it, but like what percentage of this extra stuff should someone have for their budget? Because it seems like I could see on the surface where someone would be like, well, those are nice to haves, but I don't have to have that. But then they don't get the engagement that they want, so then they're ticked off, and I get all that. But like, so how much of a budget, if a conference is thinking about budgets, do they put into this extra stuff that is hard to kind of quantify the return, if you will?
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell someone if you were to tell them all this extra stuff, send them packages, do this, it's a $10 box. Well, that $10 box is now $20 because of $10 from a mailing perspective. Like, what percentage of a budget do you think has to go into this experience things to get better engagement?
Yeah, I think it's two-part, right? So if we talk about the monetary of it, this goes back to us talking about the value of your client, the value of a customer, right? So every event needs to have a goal. What's your goal at the end of the event? Is it money? Is it what does that look like for you? So one of the things that we do with our consulting with executive events is we get to the bottom of that right away. We don't talk about how the event is even we're not talking about flower arranging or anything like that. The first thing we talk about is what that goal is. So look at the value of that attendee. What are you trying to get them to do in the long run? So what's the value of them over the next year, over the next 3 years, things like that. So now you're doing math, you're breaking that down. So if the value of an attendee,
the value of the customer, if they became a customer, how much they would be worth.
They'd spend $1,000 that year if you can turn them, right? So we need them to show up at the event. So I can say, yes, a $10 box for this potential $1,000 person is worth it. Now I have to look at my numbers as well. And I have to be really succinct on who I'm inviting. It's not a free for all because I can't give this to everybody. So another thing that I like to talk about is who your ideal customer is. And that sounds really basic, but you'd be surprised of how much money that's going to save you in the end. Getting really, really, really succinct and diabolically clear on who your ideal client is, and the right stage they are in for your business, right? Do they know about you? Are you trying to keep loyalty? Are you trying to introduce a new product or service? What are you trying to do with this person? And then figuring out how many people you think that you can close from your event due to your follow-up strategy, things like that. And then you calculate that and determine what your percentage of spend should be on these extra things. Sometimes you're not going to need a lot of extras. Sometimes you will. So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what that end goal is.
Yeah. What's your take on free versus charging a nominal fee to participate? That seems to be like the big chicken and the egg thing. You want to charge $5 so at least someone has skin in the game. Free events, people are easily distracted watching the latest kitten video on YouTube, and then they just will skip it. What have you found to be best in terms of from an attendance standpoint?
Yeah, so we're talking about virtual, right? Yeah, well, in person, I would say charge, but with virtual, that there's a different answer. In person, I say definitely charge as long as you're providing value, right? Provide value and charge for that value, absolutely. Virtual events, the precedent has been set that they're a little bit more free. People are not they're kind of choosing whether they attend or not. It's optional, that sort of thing. But you have to know your value. So if the content that you're providing, the education that you're providing, if it's valuable to this attendee, your ideal target person, they're going to pay for that information. Especially look if it's like a CPEs, if you're getting, continuing education credits and different things like that. then it's worth them to pay because they really need that sort of thing. The other side of that, and there's no right answer to this, right? It depends on what you're trying to get across. The other side of that is to have it as free, but then really, really working on your upsell, right? So just what we talked about, the value of that customer, how are you going to convert, right? So sure, it's free, but it's not free to you. And people think that just because it's virtual, then it's so much more free than in-person events. That's not true if you're doing it correctly, right? You want to have people in these networking rooms. You want to have your event concierge. You want to have a good experience for all your attendees. So the free version, if you do it free, I would say, what's your upsell? What's your call to action? What is the goal of the event? At the end of your event, what do you want to have had happen? Are you having these people sign up to be members? So if it's like a membership sort of thing, then one of your call to actions or your what you're going to put out there is maybe a special member rate for the people that are on this thing today. We're giving you a special member rate. So now they're paying a few $100s to become a member of your organization. Or they're paying, X amount of dollars to buy your product or service. And you're going to give them a special during your free virtual event, one that they can't refuse sort of thing. And not just something that you've just already had that you're upselling them, right? Put extra stuff in your offerings, right? Show them the real value of this, or maybe combine two things together. And that's what they can get for the price of one just during that event. And make sure you're being truthful, right? So if you're saying that you can just get it during this event, make sure that they're not seeing it, a week later that, oh, you're giving the same thing, and make it a real thing and be truthful and honest with your people. But yeah, so if it's free, make sure you're upselling. If it's paid, then, you're good to go there as well.
Well, I think a lot of people don't even wouldn't take that advice, right? Where they would just do the free event and they would expect or hope, let's actually say it, they would hope that then people would then go to that website and find out what else can be bought. And I think that's ridiculous, right? And so I think all you have to do is watch.
It doesn't pay bills.
You're damn right it doesn't, right? And so many people, look how hard it is for ESPN to get someone to tune into a sports match, right? I mean, they're promoting that thing over and over and over again because they know that it takes that much to get that person to come in. Look at like a pay-per-view, like how many things that these individual businesses have to do to get those people to buy into and they're literally telling you, hey, we're going to give you all this free stuff, but then we're also going to promote the heck out of this paid thing in there. And so many people will just have a free event because they think that then someone will buy their thing at some point, and there's no initiative towards that paid thing. And I think that's ridiculous. Also, I remember, I think you might have even told me this like 5 years ago, Deany, where I think it was Eventbrite had done a study, free events versus an event at a minimum of $5, and the attendance rate. Now, this is for in-person events.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I don't even think they had online things. I think they've made a button now that says this is an online event. But Eventbrite did a study, I believe it was Eventbrite, and they said if you go to a free event, less than 15% of people attend that event. If you have an event that is $5 and more, I guess, and maybe if it was just a $5 fee, I don't know where that more goes to. I don't know what that, I don't know what the max is on there, but your increase in attendance is up to like 90% of people will actually show up.
Yeah. So this is, and sometimes it's not, and you're talking about like the nominal fee of like the $5, right? So sometimes it's not even the amount of money per se, it's the psychological investment. Right. So if I take the time to pull out my wallet and pull out my credit card, I'm voting again and again and again in my head. Me just signing up for a free event, I may or may not see the reminders, different things like that. But now if I'm making this psychological investment tied with my money investment, yes, I am more likely to remember it. First of all, remember the day and time, because I have said to the organizer, I'm invested in this event. I I'm voting with my dollars. You know, I'm a big proponent of voting with your dollars. That's how you tell America what you want, right? What you want more of.
Deany Dormer,
a movie or whatever like that, right? So you're voting with your dollars. You're saying, yes, I want more of this movie. Yes, I want more of this thing or whatever. So psychological investment. So yes, if you have a minimal amount, that 10X's it right there.
So let me ask you this then. I wholeheartedly agree with your point there. But what's the difference between that and a gym membership? Because gym memberships, only 15% of people go on the regular to the gym. So you're paying for that thing. What's the psychological difference between a gym and going to an event in that kind of standpoint?
The psychological difference is the gym's going to always be there. Whereas an event, I'm going to show you that this is a one-time thing. I'm going to give you some FOMO, right? So fear of missing out. The gym's always going to be there. And I'm always thinking that I'm as motivated, that I'll be more motivated tomorrow than I am today, without psychologically realizing that I'm going to be just as motivated tomorrow as I am today. Right? So the gym is always going to be there. So in my mind, I'll get it tomorrow. I'll start next Monday. You know, it's not going away. Whereas an event, I'm going to hone in on the fact that this is a once in a lifetime event. You cannot miss it. It's coming into town and it's going away. It's the circus. You have to buy your ticket now. Right? So that's the difference with that.
Fascinating. I agree. The gym will always be there, and if it's important to you, you'll find a way.
Next Monday, I'll go. You know, it's always the next thing. Nobody wants us to go on a Friday, though. You know, it's always Monday. I'll start the diet on Monday.
What's the matter with the gym on a Friday? I mean, I love gyms on a Friday.
On a Friday.
I don't take days
I
off.
would always start on a Monday.
So why does everyone start things on Mondays?
Start a new program or whatever for health or fitness on a Monday.
And that's the problem with America.
Because we want to have fun on the weekend.
That's right.
Or find more reasons why they wouldn't start on Monday. They would start the next Monday afterwards.
Exactly.
What's someone looking to organize something? Do you have a basic checklist of things that an organizer should have either to think about before you even start to do something? I mean, it seems like for the past 6 months, all of these virtual online different types of events. I mean, it's just a wild, wild west out there. And there's some really poor things that are being put on. Do you have a little checklist that you suggest of these are the things that you either have or have in mind before you do something?
Yeah, so we do have checklists as far as what to do first, here's what to do, how many months or whatever out, things like that. Those are basic checklists. I can give you one during a consultation, or you can look these things up online. So I would say the checklist that we need to talk about is to determine if you want to do an event at all. So this goes back, and I always preach this. I'm a fervent proponent of setting the goals, right? So what is the goal? Even look at your SMART goal, timely, relevant, all that sort of stuff. Setting that goal. Why are you doing the event in the first place? And I've told people that want to do events to not do events, right? I've actually discouraged people from doing events until they got their goals and objectives determined. Don't just have an event just as a popularity contest to make yourself feel good, right? This is not your birthday party, you know? It's not just some popular thing that, so many people came to my event, I feel so great, right? You're doing this for business purposes. So that's why you need to get really clear on your goals, get really clear on your ideal customer. And so maybe you're not going to have 1,000-person event, but maybe it's going to be 30 people or 100 people. But those people are completely ideal to your product or service. So it's quality over quantity, right? So the biggest thing is to determine why you're doing the event in the first place and what you want to get out of it.
Would you come to my birthday party?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, why can't I throw a birthday party? I mean, that seems like...
Yeah, but you're not doing it for business purposes. So your birthday party discussion is not even on the table.
That's true.
Right?
I mean, I totally would like... I think I could throw some business in there. John Roberts. Look at that picture. He's in a suit. He's sitting there. He's like, hey, everybody, I'm John Roberts. He says the difference between the gym membership and the FOMO event is a powerful point. Yeah, I mean, I never thought of it that way, but it totally... It's interesting how when you deep dive.
Yeah, Yeah, and just explain that. Yeah, absolutely. So that's neat that somebody else is.
Well, he said that in response to you saying that.
Oh.
Oh, Nick Sutton, I believe.
I was like, such a smart whippersnapper he is.
I believe Nick Sutton is the one who says this, but Nick Sutton says Zach throws a birthday party and tries to charge people $5. You damn right, what?
Totally would, Nick. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Mark Bowers, big fan of the show, says minimal ticket price is definitely a mind shift to consider for PDC HR, which is an organization that he started, 18 months ago. I spoke at one of the events, great event. We're proudly free most months with about 30% show up rate from registrants, which is interesting because if he was to charge a little bit, sounds like it's something that he would see an uptick in the 30% show up rate. So, I mean, I think there's you typically, when you pay for something, you show up to that thing. It just needs to be the thing.
And then you have to look at your people, like who are the attendees there? So it's not always necessary to charge. But if you have people that, they're on the fence about your thing, then sure, go ahead and do that. But show them the value. That's the number one thing. It can't just be, hey, show up to this networking event or whatever. You have to say, here's the value. Here's the type of people that we have in this networking event. Here is what you're going to glean from being part of our organization. Value, 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 value before you ask them for monetary value, right?
So value is a buzzword in my opinion, right? And so a lot of people will say that. I'm not trying to throw shade at you in any kind of way, because I think value is important. But deep dive into that value a little bit more. Like, what is actual value to people? Like, how if you were to talk to a customer or a prospect that is sitting there going, hey, you need to provide more value, and they're sitting there going, I don't understand what that means. Right. Because I think that the person who does this on the regular understands it probably, but they're like, what are some examples of value that can be provided to someone so that they would then, in fact, want to attend my $5 birthday party?
I don't know what the value is for your $5 birthday party. So value is
come on.
Well, it's questionable. We'll see. So the value is your content, really, is what they're coming there for. So it's the attendee goals, right? So what are the goals of the people that want to attend my event? That's pretty much what it is. So this is where your surveys and different things can give you a little bit of insight to figure out what your attendees truly do want. Value can be, you getting them. So say if networking is a big thing for them. So if you're doing your virtual event, having a networking room, different things like that. There's also ways you can pair certain, say, job titles with other job titles. So if you have this aeronautics group and the CEOs of the aerial industry or whatever want to be networked with the people that fuel and different things like that, you would put this person, so you can tag them and say, these are the CEOs, these are the suppliers and different things like that, and be able to match them. So it's kind of like a dating game. So that value for me is being able to meet someone that can show me how to lessen my fuel costs or how to be better with my crew or whatever that is that I need in order to do my job better. So if you have a conference or a learning event or continuing education with that in mind, where I can meet those people that will make my job easier or who I can partner with, that to me is valuable. And yes, I will pay for an event like that. So it's figuring out what that ideal customer finds valuable, right? And so we need to talk to the customers to figure that out. There's not just one blatant statement of this is value, this is value. It goes on a case-by-case basis. It's going to change with different events, different industries, different levels, things like that. So talk to your clients, survey them, do some fun polls. Do you have a Facebook group that you can do polling in there? Ask them, ask, and then deliver.
Yeah, I thought that one thing that was recently put on was, and Zach participated in it, which was really, really clever that they did, was it was a virtual running event that you're to run 75 miles. Is that what it was, Zach? 75 miles. So it was a 757 race put on by
so JNA, which typically puts on the Shamrock races and the Harbor Lights and other things like that.
But they had sent a package out to everybody that's on the package. It said, do not open until. And so that was,
if I still had the bag. I think I threw it away, but I thought it was unique.
Yeah. And it was just to keep everybody engaged and encourage them to participate, to get their miles in. And then as a celebratory thing.
So that's on the packaging. It's kind of hard to see. Mm-hmm. But there was an extra little sticker that said, do not open until you basically hit 75.7 miles, which was the whole goal of the thing. So a 10-cent sticker. I mean, maybe no one else saw it like that, but like I thought it was unique and different. But
well, it's almost like it makes it like a Pandora's box, and it encourages you to.
I didn't open it until I did it.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting way.
I think that's a great idea.
So like, running events because of COVID are closed, right? And, they would get 20, 30, 40,000 people at some of these events. And, from a revenue perspective, I'm sure it hit home, right? I'm sure it's been difficult for, event companies like that from a fitness perspective. And so, with the new name of the region, the 757, that was a call.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's like
the 757. They said, if you could run 75.7 miles in the month, for $30, we'll give you a T-shirt. And then there's some other extra value things in there from like sponsors. So like there was like a trial of some sort of drink. I think there was like a free drink from Baker's Crust or like their fries, which are tavern chips, and a couple other things as well from a value perspective. 10% off a pair of shoes if you buy it at a certain time, if you can complete it. So all these little things that just add up to, number one, get people out of the rut of thinking about, COVID probably, right? Number two is brand awareness, right? Number three, they made a little bit of money out of it. And then they figured out a hashtag around it. I can't remember. Maybe it was 757 challenge. And some people would promote it and post about it as well. And so they were doing a lot of this stuff. And I think it was interesting, right? I think it's the first time they've done a virtual event. And maybe they'll do more. I mean, I commend them for it. They weren't sitting back just saying, when can we do these things again? They were trying to be creative, figure out ways to do that. And I think that's what so many people are, they're waiting for normal to come back. And it's like, guys, we're 7 years down the line. Like normal is coming back.
That's like waiting for the horse and buggy to come back. You know what I mean? Like, let's move on. Yeah, like it's like
that's transportation.
You don't want to give up the horse and buggy. I have my favorite horse. Why would I give him up? For a car. Right. I have my favorite stallion right here that has served me for so long and has been my trusted steed. You know what I mean? I don't want to give up my horse and buggy because I worked so hard on getting the perfect buggy or whatever, right? So I'm saying, no, I don't want a new car because I refuse to conform to the way of the future and all this sort of stuff. No, we have to embrace this stuff, right? So we've been doing events a similar way all the time. Yes, we try to get creative and different things like this, but now we have an opportunity to touch people from around the world, right? That we couldn't do before. And I think that we need to get on this bandwagon and really embrace the technology and things that the opportunities that we have now. We're seeing like a 3x increase in attendance on virtual events versus your in-person event, right? So if I have a product or service, finding a way to sell it to the masses is really good as well, right? So now I've had like 100 people at my regular events. We're seeing 300 people. We're literally seeing more people attending these virtual events. So there's a big opportunity here. And I think it's not just sitting around and waiting for things to get back to normal. This is the new normal. So get with it, right? Embrace these technologies. Stop saying that we don't know this technology and stuff like that. We didn't know how to type before and all this sort of stuff. Now we do, right? So get a car. Thank the horse and buggy for providing you this transportation for this long and learn the new technology. Don't be scared of it. And if you need help, executive events, we do the consultations. We'll walk you through these virtual platforms and everything. So you have the resources out there, but be creative in how you're going to market with your business now. There's no excuse. Technology is the future, so let's go with it.
Since early March, and probably even before that, let's be honest, I've always, if you want that consultation, go to assistmyevent.com. The link is on the screen. Deany would and her team would be happy to assist your event, but go to assistmyevent.com. It's been interesting because I think so many people, when COVID did hit, and they were like, oh, I don't know what to do, or they were, worried about certain stuff. They was just like, well, what are you doing to constantly make sure that your business is in a position so that no matter what happens, you're ready for it. And so in an area like this, where hurricanes, have happen every year in some capacity, weather is an effect, you should be ready for these things. And so I ran a marathon at the beginning of the year. And one of the reasons why is because it absolutely terrified me, right? It was something that I didn't want to do, but I was like, well, what am I going to learn by doing this challenge, right? What am I going to learn by doing something that's not the norm? What am I going to do by not just sitting my tail on a sofa instead of going out and doing this thing and really learning about that process? And I think more people need to more business owners need to be thinking about the process of what can I do to get myself out of this safe zone and to do something that really can be a pioneer, a leader, because I think it helps. It's going to help them emotionally, physically, mentally, whateverly, but it's also going to help their business because they're going to learn a lot of stuff out of it, right? I mean, one of my favorite businesses that I think innovates all the time is a very large business, and it's Panera, right? And so look at the things that they have rolled out over the years. I mean, you see these restaurants that are like, oh, I can't wait for people to come back in. I'm like, well, how many customers could you have if you just gave them a to-go order? But they're not willing to change. And I think that, look, ultimately it's your business. You do whatever you want with it. But we have a ton of customers that are probably telling us something, and we need to listen to what they're saying, which is what you've been saying this entire time.
Yeah. And I think if you're a business owner, you have to start looking at yourself as a leader. You're a trailblazer, right? Entrepreneurs embrace the unknown, right? So we start businesses not knowing certain things, but we embrace that unknown, and we go out and we still push our business out there. And we do our best, right? So I think this is just another situation that tests your acumen as an entrepreneur and as a leader.
Right.
So don't be afraid to try something and fail. If you're failing, that means you're doing something, right?
Yeah.
That's
the word failure is such BS.
Failing,
right?
Just
because you're not really
didn't hit, right? So that's what failing is. But if you're doing something, if you're going out there, now you know what didn't work. Right? This is a light bulb scenario here. Now you know that one thing didn't work. Now try something else. Go out there and try different things. Don't be afraid of the unknown. So when you're looking at this COVID situation, don't worry about it getting back to normal. What can you do right now? How can you embrace this right now? So look at other people in the industry. Maybe you need to join some sort of networking group within your industry to see what the other players are doing. And things like that, right? So you can look, say if I have a restaurant, let me look at someone like a big boy, like a Panera, like an XYZ, you have Clean Eats and different things like that. Now I can go in and get my meals shipped to me from my favorite restaurant and go on my own keto or whatever diet is going to be the new fad one or whatever. And I can get those things that are nutritionally checked off by someone like, what's our friend, Jim White Fitness or something like that, right? So Jim has here's a Jim White approved course.
But that was an innovative way for him to market his business.
And so the restaurant could package it like, we're going to send you a Jim White Fitness meal box once a week, 3 times a week or whatever. So I know if I'm eating this meal box that has been approved by this super awesome, nutritionist, that I will pay for that, and it comes from my favorite restaurant and different things like that. So don't be afraid to think out. And if that doesn't work, we're going to scratch it and do something else, right?
Now's the time to try something new because there is no set standard yet. No one knows.
And that's the trailblazing. That's the entrepreneurial thing. And that's the exciting part, guys. It's like, let's not look at this as some like drudgery that we just need to truck through and, we're going through hell, so keep going, like, don't look at it like that. Look at it as an opportunity. There's things that if something like this didn't happen, it wouldn't have pushed us out of our comfort zone. So don't be scared of it. Embrace it, learn the new technology, meet some new people that are maybe in a different state that are in the similar industry that's doing something that you're doing, and try it out. Don't be afraid to fail. Try it with the openness of learning something new. It's okay.
Preach, preach.
Okay.
Pastor Deany in the hizzy today. What's interesting? I was going to say this comment, and then as I thought about it more, I realized it's probably ridiculous. But I've been surprised at how negative people have been around all this. It's like this
situation.
This is a great opportunity, right? Like, what can you do? Like so many people, were hoping or praying or looking for more time with their family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then here you got it, and people are like, "Oh, never mind, this isn't what I want." It's like, well, hold on, like you got it, you got what you were looking for, like.
So there's two parts to this, right? So we have to be sensitive to the health crisis because it is real and it's something that we need to take a somber look at, right? So there is that, take off your hat, stand still, observe that the world is not going in the place that we need it to go, and recognize that and be and have sensitivity around that. We're not talking about that specifically right now today. We're talking about the business side of it and what opportunities there are. So
trust me, Deany, I don't even want to touch a door anymore. I got a bag around my hand and I open up that door and I find the trash. Trust me, I'm paranoid about these things. I 100% get that. Yeah. But I don't think you can live your life in a fear just because something that is going on out there that you can control. Like, you can control missing a lot of these individuals in a lot of the cases we're talking about, right? And so if you're being cautious about those things, I think you can still go and spend time with your family at your house. You can go on walks around your neighborhood and not pass anyone, things like that. I do think that there are many scenarios where you can be very cautious and not just be a hermit.
Right. So we're saying be smart is what we're saying.
Of course.
Be smart. The situation is, be smart about everything that you do. We're entrepreneurs.
Hand sanitizer right here.
Yeah. So we're specifically talking about the business side to this and the silver linings or the opportunities that we need to embrace in order to move forward as a nation.
I mean, how many times have you seen that entrepreneurial roller coaster sign, right? Where people are like, "Oh, it's a straight line," but really it's
squiggly.
That's what we're going through,
right?
And so it's very unfortunate on the health side of this. It's very unfortunate that the world is going through a pandemic, but I also think there are ways to look at this from a positive perspective, and I think we cannot neglect that positivity, because positivity it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thirsty for positivity, Deany.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't know if I would say to look at it in a positive light. I would completely separate the two. There's nothing positive about a health crisis, right? So I would completely separate that. There's the health crisis. It completely sucks. It's horrible. And it's there, right? And we take a somber look at that. And then there's the business. There's the fact that we're forced into doing things virtually. The fact that we are now even more connected.
Don't you think we were going to go to those things anyway? Don't you think that a lot of this stuff was just accelerating 7 years? Like, I mean, if this would have happened 20 years ago, yeah, I think things are a little crazier. But, we have all this technology, for things to be rolling out like that. It's because we're going to go to it anyway, right? It's 7 to 10 years quicker.
Right. Yeah. If it had rolled out 20 years ago, no, we wouldn't be as prepared as we are now.
When you think about that, can you imagine, 20 years ago, I was in high school on dial-up, Facebook wasn't a thing yet. Now I can call my mom and see her.
Right. Right. Exactly.
That's a
computer in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that we have a unique opportunity here as people in business to embrace the technology.
Yeah.
And there's so many new things coming out every day, just vetting those things. I think that we do have some opportunities business-wise, and it's really neat that we get to start to explore some of these new age things now.
What's something that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about or that you like to talk about?
My biggest thing is, I guess, the difference between is the virtual event experience, right? So I talked about earlier the difference between like live streaming and just being a passive participant in an event and having an actual virtual event experience. And regardless of what platform you use, you can still do this. You can talk to people beforehand. You can let them log into the platform beforehand so that they are familiar with it. You can do things like gamification where they're getting points for coming on time, coming back from break on time, doing certain things. And then they take these points and then they can put them towards buying something in your virtual store and things like that. So you can make it fun. You can make it interactive. We had a partner who had a band, like a special band that came in and was playing for the participants. They didn't advertise this in advance, but it was a surprise for all the people. They told people there might be a surprise and things like that. But this band did not have a set playlist, right? So people were able to go into like the chat and things like that and start requesting what song they wanted the band to play next. And so that moderator in the chat, whatever, got upvoted, then they told the band, play this song next, things like that. So make it fun, make it engaging, make it interactive. Think about it as a whole event experience. And then the biggest thing is figure out why you're doing the event to begin with, right? So if I advertise in the paper or a radio or TV and things like that, I'm going to change that number so that I can determine if I'm getting any leads from that TV commercial or that radio spot, right? So same thing with the event. We want to make sure that we're putting it on for a reason and we're able to track, the success of that event. So think overall what your goals are and make sure that you're putting metrics in place in order to be able to hit those goals successfully. That's the biggest thing. Have a overall goal and then put things in place so that you're hitting that goal. That's the most.
What was the number one requested song in that chat room?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Who has a better beer, Tim or me?
I don't know. They're both pretty good. I can't choose. They're both awesome.
Who has better hair?
Well, I guess you guys could probably do it the same way if you have it front or back.
I have to do it this way. It's too much gray starting to show.
Oh, that's the good part, though. It's like showing off your wisdom.
That's right.
If you guys are interested in a free consultation from Deany, was it free consultation?
Sure, for your guys. Absolutely.
Mention Fervent 4. And you can
yeah, mention Fervent 4. And I'll do that. I'll do a free 30-minute consult. So we've opened that up because due to COVID and things like that. There's so many different platforms. People have so many different questions. So yes, we're doing free 30-minute consultations to get people up and running and show them the best way to move forward with their virtual event. So
and you can get that by going to assistmyevent.com. Deany, it's been wonderful seeing you again. I feel like I haven't seen you in years.
Right.
Only been a few months.
I mean, the last time I probably would have seen you was early March at Array Digital's event.
Yeah, the marketing. Yes.
Yep. Save Digital Marketing Address.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Tim was at Startup Night that night, so he wasn't there. But I mean, it's been 6 months. It's good to see you again. Reunited, and it feels so good. Tim's like, nah, I ain't saying that. Deany, it has been absolutely glorious having you here today. Mark Bowers says, huzzah, huzzah.
Hey, Mark.
Great show. Appreciate you, Mark. And until next time, we'll see you guys next Thursday, 11 a.m. Deany, it's been wonderful. Tim, always good to see you. Don't forget to run the next 7 days. We know that you will. And next time, we'll see you guys. Peace and pancakes.